First, I'd like to say, Lahayam Kanaway Tilikam, Niga Mislight Kaba Slush Tum Tum Niga Mislight Ikwa Uksan, Kaba Eat Kaba Tumwara. And I just wanted to first welcome you in our tribal language, the Chinukwawa that we use today, and was to say that I'm just very happy to be here with you all today. As mentioned, my name is Greg Archuleta, member of the Confederated Tribes of Grande Ronde. And the area here, Tumwater, Oregon City, Wesleyan, is an ancestral homelands of the Willamette Tumwaters and the Clackamas Chinook people. From time immemorial, our people have lived here. And then we have our neighbors, the Molalla and the Tualatin and Kalapuya, that were neighbors to these tribes. And then our many, many other tribes throughout Western Oregon that are part of the Confederated Tribes of Grande Ronde today, including the Kalapuyas of the Willamette Valley, and the Umpquas, the Molalla people of the Cascade Foothills, the Takelma people, Roque River people, the Shasta people, and Tillamook people. So if you're not familiar with our tribe, we have seven different treaties of tribes that we relocated to the reservation in the 1850s. But today I'll kind of focus on this area here, the homelands of the Willamette Tumwater and the Clackamas Chinook. Econom, the ancient stories. From time immemorial, our people have lived here, and we have these old stories that tell how things came to be. We have stories that tell how Tumwater was created, the falls, how Coyote came and made the falls for the benefit of the people. And we have a Santiam Kalapuya econom also that tells how come the falls are in Clackamas country, Willamette Tumwater country, rather than the Santiam Kalapuya country. And it's a story of Coyote and Meadowlark coming down along the upper part of the Willamette River. And they see these falls and decide they want to find a place for them. So they begin coming down river, and Meadowlark's on one side and Coyote's on the other side. And the falls start moving down the river. And then Coyote says, how about here? But Meadowlark spoke the Clackamas language and Coyote spoke the Santiam language, so Meadowlark didn't understand them, so the falls kept moving down the river. And just to make the story short, by the time they got down here to the Oregon City area, Coyote could understand what Meadowlark was saying, and that's where they tied the falls, right here with Hazel. So that's why, according to Santiam Kalapuya, why the falls are in Clackamas country versus the Kalapuya country. And we have many, many other stories. We have Ihumlathumna, the fire-like tongue that lives upriver. There's old stories of that being that lived at Rock Island. We have Winnickites, the flatfish that was being pursued by many people and hid along the basalt rocks here. We have stories of starvation of the early people and their ribs being in the walls, the basalt walls also. So we have many, many stories that tell of our connection to here at Tumwater. Nitsaika Kata Mislight, how are the lifeways of our people. This was a great fishing center for our people. We had villages on both sides of the river, at the mouth of the Clackamas River, across from the mouth of the Clackamas River, several different sites of where the villages were, and fishing. This was also a great commerce site. We'd host many, many other different tribes here during the fishing season. And we also had portage. We maintained the portage and helped tribes go up and come up and below the falls, because there was no easy way to do that in early times. So the tribes would help for a fee to do that for other tribes that were passing through. we had very many different methods for fishing, including dip netting at the falls, and they had methods for being on canoes above the falls and fishing from above the falls, and then also from below the falls. So our people lived here. We gathered the salmon, and the salmon was very plentiful, and it was also important for our winter food, but also for trade also. And that's why we had the great gatherings of people that came and traded here with us. And then we also had the annual runs to the Skockwal, the eel. And we gathered those here, and other visitors came and also gathered there. And this practice has continued to today. We're hoping that very soon here that we'll be out there fishing again at the falls. And our history of removal in the 1850s, when the treaties were created, we were relocated to the Grande Ronde Reservation, but we continued to maintain a connection here to the falls. I myself, as mentioned, is I'm descendant from the Clackamas Chinook, from Chief Wachino, and our chair, who's here, Cheryl Kennedy, is also a relative and also descendant from Chief Wachino. And then on the other side of my family, I'm descended from the Oregon City John for the Willamette Tumwater. So our families have very, very close ties and connections to here. And during the time of relocation to the reservation, our families would continue to come to the falls. The reservation was supposed to be a promise for farming. They wanted us to be farmers, but the land was not very good for farming. So our tribe would continue to come to the falls to gather fish, and then by then they had the ferries going up and down the river, and they would take them by barge up and then to Grande Ronde. So we continued to maintain that connection. Our tribal families have always continued to come here and gather the eel Skockwal. Some of our elders call those our potato chips of their time. And here you see us being able to fish once again at the falls. This was kind of like a dream to me. I never thought I would see it in my time, that we'd be able to fish here at the falls. But I kept bugging and mentioning it to everybody I could on our tribal council and our people, and they made it reality. So I'm very, very so grateful for our tribal council, Ayumasi, for the hard work they did to make this a reality. Today we have an annual salmon ceremony here at the falls, which we'll be doing probably within the next week or so, where we honor that first fish as they come up the river. And we do as they did in the old days, where in the old days they would pit 5 crane heads or loon heron heads to face downriver to watch for those first fish. So as part of that ceremony, we do that. We have those herons set out there to watch for those first fish. And then we have our ceremony, and that fish is shared with everybody that's present. And then we return the bones of the fish to the river to ensure the continued return of the salmon each year. As mentioned, the Skockwal is very important to us. And upriver, there was a place called Skockwal Edelholm, Eel Town. Here's our tribal canoe. This is Stunkia, our canoe, and Stunkia was an ancient coyote that lived in the area. And he's the one that kind of deemed the importance of all of our traditional foods, including the salmon, the fish, the sturgeon, the steelhead, the Skockwal eel. Our plant foods included the huapato that was very, very common in this area. So all these things that became important in our traditional foods was due to this one of the ancient coyotes called Skunkia. So we're here on the river in our canoes, maintaining our connection to this place. And if you're not familiar, usually in June, July, when we do gather the Skockwell, we're here on the falls. And we're right in those falls. We're behind the falls. There's deep pools. And so we can, you just reach down and you have to feel for those Skockwell, the eel there. And then when you feel them, you have to grab them fast and then hand them off. Usually somebody's on the rocks there to gather them. And sometimes people like to dive in those deep holes and go down there and gather up some eels and bring them up. And then we also sometimes, if the water allows, that we'll be up on top too, gathering them. This is kind of an art piece that one of our tribal members did, Travis Stewart, and this one commemorates one of our villages here where there was a time where there was starvation. And the Ta'i, the chief, went downriver and found where the eel were and gathered up some eel and brought them back to the village. And he told the people that you had to fix them a certain way, and if you didn't fix them that certain way, you'd probably starve because they were very, very near death. And so some of them did fix them that way, and some of them didn't. And those who did not fix them right starved. And that's the old stories of the ribs that are in the basalt rocks of those that didn't make it. And the art of the Columbia River is very unique, so I think some of the things as we look forward for tomorrow is hopefully the incorporation of the art of the Chinookan people that resided along the river here and along the Columbia River. And there's many, many things that have happened here. We have a long, long time frame of being here and connected to the falls. There are many, many good things and there are very many sad things. When our reservation, the removal to the reservation, our Ta'i Wachino, he broke up his canoe because he didn't know if he'd ever return to the river again because the place was far inland. And there were many other tragedies. We lost many of our people, our Ta'is that were hung injustically, and some of them didn't make it to the reservation, such as Ta'i Tamalth. And we also have the tragedies of other tribes that were here, and since this was a center of government, they brought them here to be hung. And those were tragedies that we share in our hearts, the pain that the other tribes do feel, such as the Umatilla, for those kinds of things that happened here. So the falls does have a very deep, deep connection to us, and it's been unbroken since time immemorial, I believe. And today, we're here, we're about ready to fish again, as I mentioned, was something I thought we would not be able to do in my lifetime, but we're able to celebrate our first salmon ceremony here. We're able to gather our tribal members here in canoes and sing and dance. And we give blessings to the river and to the land here and our connection. And we honor our ancestors that lived and survived the many, many, many different time periods of here. And so I think when we look at the future of what we want to see, those are some of the things, the memories that we want to recall. But we also, as tribal people, we always look to the future, to the many, many generations ahead of us. And so that's something also that we want to be reflected. And whichever is created for the falls here is that future and that connection that we will always retain. Haimasi.